Well, we're live. Yeah, we're apparently. I don't know. Give a test one too. Okay. Well, hang on. You're a little bit low. You're a little bit low. Let me. I turned you up. So, all right. Well, we have one person just joined in. Can they? Can we hear Charles Woods at all, or no? Do I have to do something different? Well, yeah. You need to turn that down, but yeah, turn the TV down, but I can't even tell. Hey Jay, can you hear can you hear Charles? Charles, please say something. We're testing something. He just said something. Anybody? We getting him or no? All right. Okay, so we can't hear him. Okay. All right. Well, let me play with that. We're trying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna hang up on you and call you back. I'll put you on. Let me see. I'll figure. All right. I'm gonna hang up, guys, and come back. I'm gonna figure this out. You can hear me, but I got Charles on the line on Skype, but he's not coming in through a mic input. So unless somebody has a technical idea, because I can hear him, but let me just check the audio video settings. No, no, let me just figure this out. I can hear you on the headset. If I put you on the built-in output, now say something, Charles.
Hello, real black family. Hello.
Okay, now you're okay. All right, so I can hear you, but they're hearing me through the mic. So what I need to do, you can hear them clear?
Someone said, we hear him.
It's good enough quality?
Larry Talbot. No fix.
Okay.
We're good.
All right, okay, best of both worlds. And I'll listen back to this later and we'll fine tune it. Usually, when we record Charles, it's through like a mixing board and I have different inputs going into the mics, technical stuff. But yeah, so anyway, family. I haven't heard from Charles in a couple days, and I texted him. I said, "How you doing?" And he said, "I can only talk for a few minutes." And then we ended up talking so long. I said, "You ass! I can't curse anymore. We need to be recording this because people need to hear your thoughts. And you sound like you're doing a lot better."
I'm feeling much better, Mike. Back and forth to the doctors. I just want to tell the family out there, pay attention to what you eat. Get plenty of exercise. Drink plenty of water. But what you eat is going to come back to haunt you. So the better you eat, the better it is for you. Take care of yourself. Okay. I just want to say right quick, I love all of you. I have great respect for everyone. The learning process, it's a two-way street. You may learn something from me, but I learned so much from you. And so peace and blessings to the family.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Can we still hear somebody? Can we still hear Charles or no? I'll type it in. Oh, that's a yes from Larry. Okay, so Larry's our number one fan. So I guess the first thing, all right. So the first thing, if you're saying watch what I can't, I brought these wrap snacks. You're saying that's a bad food choice for 11:52 p.m. I should not put those into my body.
Mike. You know how I used to joke when we sit down and be eating, and some people say you guys need to stop eating that crap. I'm gonna blame a lot of this on you, Mike.
It probably is my fault. I apologize, but we're in transformation, so things are gonna get better for everybody. But health is the most important thing. Health as well. So happy to have you here for a few minutes. Now, the reason I had called Charles is because I went into storage because I knew he had this Anita Hill video. And I posted up this morning. It said 90 minutes on the box, and it turned out to be like 2 hours plus. So I don't know if anybody's got a chance to watch it, but there was a nice chunk of it with Ron. Shit, of course, I'm late, right? So we put that up. The gentleman was killed, Charles,
Who?
in the plane crash. Ron.
Oh, Brown.
Ron Brown, yeah. Any thoughts on that, or the Anita Hill? It leads into Kavanaugh.
Well, what little I saw, this Kavanaugh thing is it was very interesting. You know that one of the things with the Me Too movement is we're caught in the middle because we do not want to disrespect women who say they have been sexually assaulted and not give some credence to what they're saying. But then, you know, you have a lot of people who are saying too much weight goes one way, and where a lot of men are not given the benefit of the doubt. And the Republicans, they made a lot of hay with this. And, you know, a lot of people want to see Trump as being stupid, but Trump knows everything he's doing. He knows how to play the media. And he turned this whole thing around. And now the conservatives, the Republicans, they have a new discussion as far as the Me Too is concerned. It's not Me Too where the women are the victims. It's Me Too where the men are the victims. That's how it's been turned around.
So the reason I wanted to show the Anita Hill, I didn't want to put people back through the whole confirmation thing. I mean, some of that's covered in the tape at the beginning, where he says this is nothing but a high-tech lynching and all that stuff. I thought when all the Kavanaugh stuff was going on last week and he was getting mad and angry and stuff, I said, well, that's a page right out of Clarence Thomas. It's not going to work again. And of course it did, because it was kind of already preordained the minute they picked him, right? Or did he have a chance of being, because it basically came 50-48 in favor of Kavanaugh. One person, a Republican, voted present, and one person didn't even come to the vote. So theoretically, it could have been an even Steven if people had voted the way they had claimed they would.
Well, what people have to look at is that all this is an inside job. These guys, they're picked, and they all sit at the same table together, man. You know what I'm saying? And Susan Collins, she's a joke. Jeff Flake, he lives up to his name. He's going out. He's got nothing to lose, you know. But what people have to realize is that the way you keep power by putting out misinformation and keeping people at each other's throats, where the people who are in control of this country, no one's even pointing the fingers at them. They're getting away with murder because they live on a policy that is old as mankind itself. That's divide and conquer. That goes all the way back to the Bible. And as I say, the Republicans are cleaning the Democrats' clock. You know, they have an expression: Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. That Mitch McConnell, who's running the Senate, that boy he's smooth operator. He gets the job done. Okay. And like I say, don't take Trump. Don't look at him as a fool. This guy, he said it. I can shoot somebody and get away with it. So far, so good. This guy, I mean, they're gonna tout the economy. They just, I think Nikki Haley resigned today, right? And she's singing his praises. Lindsey Graham, that son of a gun, he's somebody who told, when he was running against Trump, this guy's lousy. Trump should go to hell. All of a sudden now he's a bedfellow. And if you know what I mean by that, he's Trump's bedfellow, because if he doesn't stay in the Senate, he's looking to replace Sessions. So all this is it's a game, and the Republicans, they're winning the game. let me just say this right quick, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
If the Democrats were smart and not get caught up in their partiality and in their heated attempt not to have Kavanaugh based on what they're afraid Kavanaugh would be on the Supreme Court, if they didn't get so caught up in that desire, they would have known that Dr. Ford was not the right person to have accused Kavanaugh of having sexually assaulted her, because she had no memory, there was no corroboration. So right there, it was problematic, and it worked in the Republicans' favor.
Yeah, but you got to dig deep. I mean, it seems like they had all the time in the world to find dirt on this guy, and I think, the backlash is, as you say, who's safe if you can be convicted or put into trouble over things that happened 30, 40, 50 years ago, almost a lifetime ago. Is that fair to anyone?
Well, what they should have gone after is the man's demeanor. If he's someone who should be on the Supreme Court, one of the things that they should have attacked is his lack of candor. And when he came out and he blistered the Democrats with being after him and having the Clintons behind it and just going after him because they didn't want him on the Supreme Court. He came out, and if he didn't come out with a convincing performance after Dr. Ford, after she gave her testimony, many people felt it was over for Kavanaugh. But when he came out and he played the victim, then you didn't know what to believe. You know what I'm saying? So it became a he said, she said situation, and no way to prove otherwise. So all that worked towards the Republicans who can then use the fact that nothing could be corroborated to point fingers at the Democrats and say this whole thing is a hoax. The way Trump mocked Ford, right now they're wondering how that's going to turn out. But right now he's saying the whole thing is a hoax. He's on cloud nine. He's like I said, they are winning. They had a scene in 5 on the Black Hand Side.
Yes, sir.
And there's a scene where the guy says, "The bad guys are winning."
So I mean, but how bad is? I mean, the hypocrisy is super evident. The Democrats did a horrible job of trying to postpone this thing until the midterms. I don't know what your feeling is about how many House seats are going to get back in this midterm election. But, a lot of hypocrisy is how much that the Republicans blocked Obama from having a Supreme Court pick. And now they have minimum 3 within the next 4 years.
Well, this is what I'm saying. The Republicans are cleaning the Democrats' clock. Mitchell stole the nomination from Obama, Garland, and then as a consequence of that, we got Gorsuch, and then this thing with Kavanaugh, and the Democrats said, "Oh no, not another one." So Trump's had 2 Supreme Court picks. And everyone's hoping that RBG Ginsburg, that she can hold on to. Hopefully, if the Democrats at least take the House, and maybe can get a Democrat as a president in 2020. But what's very disarming is the fact that Trump is still someone who could win in 2020, and especially if he gets more help from the Russians, because he's not doing anything to try to stop that. So that they're looking for Mueller to have something on him and come with it quick, but Mueller's holding back so that he doesn't get accused of tampering with the upcoming midterms.
Right. And
so it's all politics.
And it seems like unlike the Watergate era, you need more than a smoking gun to get a Donald Trump out of office impeached.
Well, I mean, he could say, grab him by the PUSSY. He could say all this stuff, and then he could come back and say, I never said that. That wasn't me. But it goes to the point where he said, I could shoot somebody in the middle of Main Street and get away with it. What happens is the thing we had talked about earlier, the public, they don't realize that, in my study of the media, a lot of times you would hope that the media is influenced by the culture, but too often the media is controlling the culture. And so what happens is we have a press that, as I said before, is not doing what it should do to uncover falsehoods and to reveal the truth. We have a press that just continues the status quo, and really the press, for me, it just helps to keep us oppressed, repressed, and depressed.
Without question, shout out to Cheryl. She says she's so sick of hearing about all the scandals. This true negative energy can be literally sickening. A lot of people are tuning out to the elections, and I think we're all desensitized to the amount of information that we get every day that we're expected to deal with. But certainly appreciate your input and insight, Charles. Now,
let me just say in closing on this subject. Mm-hmm. The only thing that is disheartening for me is the fact that I think in this society, this is a society that's misogynistic. We've done terrible harm to the most important gender on the face of the earth, and that's our women.
Without question. Amen to that. So, I mean, we got 43 people in the room. Hey, everybody. Last time we asked ages. Now I'm just curious, what part of the world are you in? I know we have a lot of people in the U.S. What state, what city? This is your opportunity within the chat, if you're near a keyboard, to type in what city you're in and just give a roll call. I'm in Philly. Charles is in Yonkers right now, right? So
yes.
We're hitting October. It's the fall. Now, the reason I called Charles today was because I went in the storage. I found the Anita Hill tape down there, and brought some other stuff in to transfer. Are you see stuff? Are you watching, Charles? Or are you just listening?
I'm watching you.
All right, I found that one.
Which one?
Can you see it? Yeah. Tell people about that.
That a place called The Day. That's a lost classic. That's something I told you. I think you never saw that film, right, Mike?
Well, eventually you talked it up so much I had to see it. Yeah, but your copy, we're still trying to get it clear. But I do have. It's a brilliant film. It's part of your bad Negroes of cinema. Talk.
Well, I mean, for the. And I don't like to use the term NIGGER, but in the interest of, just throwing that out there. But he's one of my bad niggas, the blacks in that film. I think what happened, that was produced by Cherry Cafaro. Cherry Cafaro is someone who did the Ginger series. The Abductors was one of them, Ginger, the first one. Mm-hmm. And
so they ventured into, like sort of female James Bond movies with a lot of TNA.
Sexploitation is the right term. That's what she was. The TNA, right?
But sort of like secret agent TNA, yeah.
Right, and so they did this film, and I don't know what made them do this, but it showed a black politician running, and he'll stop at nothing to get the power that he wants. And that was an interesting thing. But the men in there who what they want to do to make someone look bad is they commit a lot of crime to make it look like the male who's in charge can't control the crime. So the black guy is saying, you know, put me in office. I will control the crime. But they had some scenes in there that I just knew were too distasteful for the public at large. Mm-hmm. And so there's a rape scene of some white woman that was something that was a little hard to take. But what's interesting about the film is that, you know, one of the things I talk about is I'm putting another series together, another mini-series. It's called White Fragility. If there's white fragility, that means there's no black sympathy. So it's a list of films that I found the most humiliating as far as black folks were concerned. How, you know, I spoke to a lot of my older family members. Like, what was it like for them to go to the movies and watch Step and Fetch It or Native Son? And I remember my uncle. He used to say, "Well, we used to call Richard Wright when he played a Native Son. We used to call him Bigger the Nigger." Mm-hmm. But I remember, I'll never forget my uncle. He said, "I used to see those movies, and they used to, when the blacks would come on, we would all sink down in our seats." Mm-hmm. And when I read Sidney Poitier's biography, he said the one thing I wanted to make sure that if I made it in Hollywood, I would not play a part that would make my audience sink in their seats the way I used to when I watched these films. But when you see that a film like Birth of a Nation gets released, despite all of the attempts to have that film suppressed, it still got released, because film, when it was made, there was never producers who gave a damn about how the films would insult us. The calumny that was produced with our depictions, there was no sympathy for black folk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm reading right now. Last podcast, I was showing people books I'm reading, but I didn't get through all. I forgot to mention the one that I'm actually reading on Kindle. It's Cecil Brown, his memoir of Richard Pryor. They were collaborators and friends when Richard Pryor came to Berkeley to transform himself. Very little mention made of Paul Mooney. I think Paul could have discussed it more in his own book than he did, but very interesting portrait of somebody in a transformational time. But you know, the point that he was trying to make was, when Pryor came up and was rejecting sort of the Las Vegas and the Ed Sullivan and being a Cosby clone, and was trying to find his own voice, he fell right into the counterculture of San Francisco, where they're Black Panthers. He snorted cocaine with Huey Newton, and was there. He did a whole radio show the week Attica happened. You know, he's very much engaged, and his intention was to sort of transform Hollywood. And, you know, but his habits, his own personality kind of worked against it in a way. But there's a great sequence in there where they're talking about the making of Blue Collar. And literally everything was a fight for him in terms of representation. And he said often it'll be around the table reads, especially with the white directors. So apparently there was a scene in Blue Collar where they wanted to show an older woman taking a dump in the yard without thought, you know, almost like she was a dog or something. And he objected to that, and he had to fight for that. And after 2 readings, it was still in the script. And he said, "This really offends me." It's like, "Does it offend you?" And Richard just pulled out, showed it. They had a gun on him. And Cecil Brown said, like, you know, at this point, the writer should have understood this was beyond words. You know, the fact that he didn't have any words, he was just showing a gun, meant that had to change. And he literally I feel, sacrificed a lot of his soul in order to make sure that we don't have to, other than the toy. Now, I'm not going to talk about the toy. Other than the toy and maybe Superman 3, the cringeworthy moments in the Richard Pryor film. Let's see what we got. Charles, are you reading some of these comments? We had a little infighting on Trump versus Clinton versus Obama. I feel like you've expressed yourself. I mean, do you think that we could have had a lesser of two evils at this point, 2 years into Trump's presidency, or we're witnessing some sort of metamorphosis where the whole system has got to collapse? Would Hillary, I guess the question is, would Hillary have saved us more from what we're experiencing now, or would a Hillary win added more fuel to the fire for the Trump supporters because he was sort of planting things in there like it's rigged and so on and so forth?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I mean, would a Hillary win given the right more power, or would she really be in a position to correct a lot of the flaws that we're starting to see very much exposed?
I think the main thing people have to realize is that the power rests with the people. And until the people as a collective group, until they unite and show these MFs that, hey, you're supposed to be working for us. You're supposed to be doing something for us. If this is the true meaning of a democratic government, then work for us. These people, they have their own agenda. When I say these people, I'm talking about these politicians. They don't give a damn about the people. It's politics over people. And when you look at someone like Joe Manchin, who's a Democrat, but the reason why he's going to vote for a Kavanaugh, because he's in a state where if he does otherwise, he won't get reelected. So where's the conscience? Where is the fact that I'm going to do what's best for the people? I'm going to do what I feel is best. No, it's not about that. It's what's best for them. Mm-hmm. See, and until the people stop putting these same SOBs back in office, you look at Chuck Grassley and Hatch, they were sitting in to help decide if Judge Thomas would become on the Supreme Court. That's how long they've been in office. So what's changed is that money has become more influential, and you see they don't want to do anything about this gerrymandering. So the whole thing is it's rigged, as someone once said. The whole system's rigged, and not until the people rise and say enough of this crap, we're going to still get politicians where some will put on a better face than others, but basically it's all what's best for their agenda, the people they represent, the big banks, the big corporations. There's a book called Who Rules America? If people get that, you see that a lot of these people, they come out of the same schools, Yale, Harvard. Okay, they're all sitting on the same board. So, it's all crap. And as the family say, I'm sick of it. But don't get sick to the point where you become apathetic, because then you're just helping the status quo remain the same. You have to become civic minded. You have to become active, and you have to find a way where your involvement is going to work with others who feel strongly the same way you do, to dismantle the system.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of times we show older films, talk about things like Place Called Today, just from a historical standpoint, to show how anything that we're saying, it's been said before by a lot smarter people than us, and, but it's just putting it into perspective. How does this relate to the past? How can we make things change, break cycles, and so forth? Charles, I don't know. Do you have Netflix? There's a good one. Oliver Stone directed. It's a little. I can't get this. The Untold History of the United States. I don't. Okay, there's.
You had mentioned that once before to me, and I didn't get a chance to see it. Yeah. But in the technology book I'm working on, I break down what power means to me, Mike. And the P stands for you maintain power, you perpetuate it for an elite group by controlling the politics, the oligarchical position, where you have an elite few running the government. You control the wealth. That's the W, the wealth. The E is for economics, and the R is for rhetoric. Rhetoric is the effective use of language. Okay, so you got politics, P, the oligarchic position of a few running the government. That's O. W is you have the wealth. The E for economics, you control how goods and services are consumed and produced. And the main thing is that consumption. We're a consumer system. And capitalism is one of the most exploitative and wasteful systems on the face of the earth. And the R is for rhetoric. Rhetoric deals with the effective use of language. And what it means is who controls the narrative, the gatekeepers, the messages that get out there. See, the information, as Denzel was saying, if you don't read the newspapers, you're what? You're uninformed. If you do read the newspapers, you're misinformed. And as I told you, in re-examining the use of the language and looking at that word information, I see it as the information we get, it keeps us in formation, in a formation that will make us go along with the system as it is, rather than go against the system as it is.
Yeah, and as in the Eddie Glaude interview, he said if you're complaining that systems broke, you may be challenging it to an ideal that you were taught, but the system is operating exactly the way it's supposed to. If it doesn't bring you justice, it's been like that for a long time. So,
well, one of the things that's important, a lot of people read the Bible, but a lot of people don't know how to decode the Bible. Here's something I want to throw out to the real Black family. You go and study the Tower of Babel, okay? And the Tower of Babel is supposed to be the myth that explains why people speak different languages. But what's important in that story is that you learn that when God, as it is in this story, when he decided to confuse or confound the language, it was because the people were too powerful when they spoke the same language. See, when we speak the same language, we can see eye to eye. We can agree on things, see? And then we can get things done. And remember, these people were climbing this tower because they all spoke the same language. And the gods were saying, hey, if we don't do anything, they will reach us and become like us. So they said the only way we can stop them is we have to confound the language. So what happens is, what do we have? We have, I can't get along with you, Mike, because you're a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I don't believe in your religion because you're a Muslim and I'm a Christian. You see? And that goes back to Willie Lynch. I wanted to show you that a lot of people just focus on certain things in Willie Lynch. But one of the things Willie Lynch spoke about is the importance of mastering your oppressor's what? Language.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a good point. The other book that well, actually, let me jump into this. I'm definitely going to post this up. It's out of print. I think we got a little gray area. The audiobook is not read by Reginald, but I want to share this soon on the channel. Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? He's the first Black billionaire in present day time, Reginald Lewis, with Beatrice. So we'll be putting that up soon. But
do you know how he got into power?
Actually, I started reading the book before I got the audiobook. He had somebody.
He used the white man to front for him.
Exactly. He had somebody.
Okay.
Yeah, it's with technology. And then the other thing I'm in the midst of, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this already.
You know, Mike, one little anecdote.
Go ahead.
After the deal went through, he jumped in the air and clicked his heels.
Okay. I can picture that. So 4 agreements. I mean, for all the people that are into the Dick Gregory stuff, and Dick Gregory's birthday is this Friday, October 12th, and so Thursday night. This is basically Tuesday going into Wednesday. Thursday night, 10:30. I'm gonna be doing another live stream, and I'm gonna have a few people that to share stories of Dick Gregory, and I'll share some memories of mine. But one of the most popular of all the videos is one of the last ones where he says, "I am God, you are God," and he's basically, for a lot of people raised Christian is very confounding for him to say that. But this book, it's actually the closest thing that I've read to date that kind of encapsulates what I feel are Dick Gregory's spiritual beliefs. And his beliefs go way deeper than this book. But basically, are you familiar with 4 agreements at all, Charles, or no?
No.
Yeah, I mean, Jody Watley, when I interviewed her almost 10 years ago, she said she was finishing this book and I always wanted to get it. I always wanted to read it. And I'm late on it. This is one of Will Smith's books that he always talks about. But basically, it deals with brainwashing in a sense. Like it's a Toltec wisdom. And correct me if anybody who's watching has read this. I'm only a couple chapters in so far. But basically, he's saying that in the Toltec religion, the breakthrough was one of the spiritual guides sat in a cave and he realized that we are all light, that we're all made of light, but and that there's like an infinite universe within all of us, so to speak, paraphrasing. So and my phone's ringing. I'm gonna have to let this one go. Sorry about that. So anyway, so we're all made of light. We're reflecting one another's experiences, but it's all based, everything that we exist. So you have a waking life and a dream life, and it's all the same. It's all infinite. However, it's all guided by what we're programmed to know, the agreements, right? So using language, making agreements with yourself, being honoring your own words, impeccable with your words, the way you use language manifests things into your reality and your belief system. So it's really about making you aware of the belief system that you're programmed into already from the time that you're a child, what you're taught as right and wrong, what things are, names for things. They can all be changed, but there's a way to reverse it. And so when he says, "I am God, you are God," he's saying that we all, every level of consciousness reflects upon itself. We're seeing reflections of ourselves in everything, and if we can condition our minds, we can delve even further. So I highly recommend this book, and there is an audio version on YouTube. There's a guy reading it. He doesn't sound like me. The audio book, if you go on YouTube, 4 Agreements audio book, you can get a taste of that. But I think it's interesting because I think we are all I think we should all be constantly changing, and it's really interesting to see those kind of levels unfold. And like I said, I got my star chart done, and later I don't really care too deeply about it, but it's an interesting way of looking at things, and trying to, as a creator, somebody who's creative, it's very important for me to have a broader view. So we have Cincinnati in the house. We got New York in the house. We got Philly in the house. We got New York in the house. Jay Jones likes Bernie Sanders, and we're at 65 people watching live, Charles. The other thing that came in the mail today, before we get into the new news, I don't know if you have a comment on this. This is coming out from our friends at Olive Select. It's a deluxe edition Blu-ray of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is the 50s Cold War McCarthy actually stars a guy named Kevin McCarthy, Paranoia. One of my favorite 50s sci-fi movies. And very relevant to today. Do you have any feelings about this, Charles?
Well, I love that film, and when you relate it to media, see, a lot of those films, the sci-fi films,
mm-hmm.
they represented the fear of communism.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people aren't aware of that, but that's one of the better films, and it was all connected to the fight we had with the threat of communism,
mm-hmm.
and so a lot of science fictions were about that. But that's where getting the right information, learning the background on films, where you see where a writer, they'll use metaphor, they'll use symbology, they'll use different things to touch on what's relevant, what's contextual, but they'll do it in a different way. For example, The Matrix, the writer has something intended with that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the films we get, what I try to explain with my analysis of films is the IQ I'm trying to develop and pass on what I think is happening with the media. The media is used to control us, and a lot of people think it's entertainment, but like I say, using the language, entertainment, it's about entertainment, as I said before, and entertainment is just short for the way they want to contain us, detain us, maintain us, and sustain the system as it is. Just like the internet was INTER and net, really it's enter a net. What is a net? A net is something you use to catch something, to capture something. And right now, one of the ways they want to capture a lot of people and brainwash them is through the internet. It's another medium, another way of getting out information that serves someone's agenda. And unless we know that what we see is disinformation or misinformation, you don't realize how much this information can keep you information
mm-hmm.
to go along with the system, the status quo.
Without a doubt. And I think what's excellent about this medium, and trust me, they're fighting to control the internet as much as they control the quote unquote free press. And it frustrates me somewhat that cat videos seem to be the rule of everything. Maybe the cats run the world, I don't know, but it seems like more people, other cultures, other countries use this technology to start revolutions, and we're watching cat videos, including Cat Williams videos. So that goes to the next thing. Go ahead.
It gets back to something like Denzel had said, are we using our devices, or are our devices using us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I tell you, Mike, one of the most disturbing things for me is how when you talk to people, I saw two people on the train today. They're talking, and while one's talking to the other one, in the hands, she's doing something with her fingers on her phone.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's insulting, but everyone's looking down at this device. And you have to realize that when I'm into etymology. I like to break down words.
Mm-hmm.
And if you break down device, from an etymological perspective, do you know what it deals with?
Etymology, was it Greek or Latin?
Well, etymology is it gives you the root of word, but historically, device comes from division.
Okay.
Okay, so it's something, a device is used for further division. And so you're looking into this device, but what are you getting from it? We don't look at each other. We don't talk to each other. We don't pay attention to each other. We're into these phones, and they're going to use this thing to throw out something that just, this is how they want to bring down America, because they know everyone's on the damn computer.
Mm-hmm.
No one's reading anymore. No one's studying anymore. It's we're like I said, we're being entertained. We're allowing ourselves to enter the device and letting it take us wherever it takes us.
It's the new drug, and that's,
yes, it is.
That's, before we got online, I was saying, like, we were talking about Charles and I were Charles Wood's on the line, everybody. Talking about how to grow the channel, and I said I like this format because it's interactive with everyone, and then we're testing tonight just to see how easy or how we can get callers in to communicate as well, because for us it's all about information, not to keep you information, but just to share things that we feel are important and relevant. And a lot of information is on YouTube. Like, you can literally, if you organize yourself, you don't have to pay a cent to get a college, semester's worth of education on YouTube. So I think what's great, I'm taking my 30 years of filmmaking and knowledge, and Charles, what are you, 60, 70 years in on this stuff?
I'm 70.
But I'm saying, how long have you been studying film again?
A good 55 years.
Yeah, so we're just.
I mean, you even look at the word I'm looking at. It's on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Another way to look at device. The DE. If you've ever learned language, DE is a prefix, or it means of.
Mm.
Okay, and then you got vice, of vice.
Of vice.
And we know what vice is.
So that's the next level of addiction. Okay.
Oh yes.
See, he does word puzzles in his mind, so eventually it comes into form, and then we'll sell it back to you. Right now,
right quick, Mike.
Yeah, go
right
ahead.
Quick, just to show you, language. If you don't study the language, you will languish. Okay, but let's look at two words. Okay, in the beginning was the word. Right, that's from the Bible. Language, how important it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. Look at the word world, WORLD. You drop the L, what you got?
Without the L, word.
Yes, word. Okay. Now look at the word. A synonym for world is what? Begins with the letter U.
What, universe? What?
Universe, right? Now uni means what?
One.
And verse relates to what?
Words.
Okay.
Well, it's all connected. Everything that
it's all connected, my brother.
Well, I should say, I don't know if you looking at videos. I was watching again, because another thing you had in there. I don't think we can post it. Was a Quincy Jones special. So I was like watching some Quincy Jones videos, and he has a very insightful conversation with a singer called Khalid for GQ, and within the context of that, he's dropping all kinds of gems. He's really trying to encourage this guy to learn about the whole history of music, and what the roots are within every culture. And he drops tons of knowledge in terms of it. And he's saying it's each culture has its own way of using music to communicate, but anything that we think is new culturally has come from another place. And then again, the reason I'm like doing the astrology bit this week is because he talks about his chart, and how we're manifested, the time and date that we're born. Of course, I did Charles's chart, family, and he completely rejected it.
Yes.
I said he didn't know the exact time of his birth, but I said, wow, this chart is so good. I'm gonna send you one, Charles. And I read it to him. He's like, nah, it's not me.
Well, Mike, did you ever read Shakespeare?
Of course, yeah. In college, high school.
You remember the line, "The fault there, Brutus, lies in ourselves, not in our stars, that we are underlings."
So you're not buying all that? You don't think your spirit?
A lot of it is not. It's coincidental. You take the word disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, etymology. Disaster means it was caused by the stars, because aster means what? Star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
But these some desperate times, Charles, and I gotta know. I'm in an existential crisis. Where did I come from? What am I doing here? And what is my destiny? So I gotta look to the stars. I gotta delve deep and try and find some wisdom and knowledge. Because what I was told when I got here was a bunch of bull.
Well, the whole thing is what you're told. It's cultural. Mm-hmm. It's about you keep a system in place by perpetuating that which sustains the system. I tell a lot of people, they say, well, you look at the word belief, mm-hmm. and I tell them, what is that? 50% of the word belief is lie. Okay. It's a lie.
All right. So I know we were trying to keep this within reason, but we're offline. We were talking about a few things. I don't know if you got a chance to watch Mike Epps on the Breakfast Club today. I thought he was dropping a lot of jewels as it relates to the system, the Hollywood system. Basically, mm-hmm. For those who haven't had a chance to see him, he was somewhat rebutting Kevin Hart's appearance when he was on with Tiffany. Basically, Kevin aligned Mike Epps as being a hater, and Mike contends that his Instagram and things were meant as entertainment. He wasn't going after people personally, but it was also like doing the dozens or whatever. But in the process of that, he was just talking about how the entertainment industry works for Black people. He said, none of us have any power in this industry. If you look at what they did to Bill Cosby, then you have to understand that they can get you anytime they want to. And he said a lot of people are in fear. When are they going to get me? In terms of the power thing. And he said that he just said, yeah, when you're on top, everybody loves you and you can do no wrong. So it's not fair for Kevin to be saying certain things in defense of his integrity against other comedians, because all that does is sort of box them out of whatever the system is. So I don't know how you feel about that one, Charles.
Well, my thoughts are, Baba Dick said, entertainers and these jocks, basically, they're in it for the money. Mike Epps, and hear me good, family. I'm just as guilty as anyone else where analytically I can look to criticize someone and say, I think he was wrong to do this. I think he was wrong to make this kind of film, or I didn't like this kind of what he said or what she said. But basically, you know, I told you a couple of days ago. I think one of the best things that was said about Bill Cosby was by Sinbad, where Sinbad said, you know, we're all flawed individuals. We're human. But we can't take away a lot of the good that Bill did. Mm-hmm. Okay? I mean, you take, we was talking about these politicians. You know, they talk about the founding fathers. And they sing their praises because they felt a lot of what the founding fathers did was great. But you have a lot of people say, yeah, but they were slave owners. They maintained a system that was brutal to people, and it was supposed to be a country where all men are supposed to be created free. So the thing is, once again, I get back to the word icons. We make icons out of people who are human. You know, in Hollywood, they're called stars. Mm-hmm. But they get this, and you know, when Clark Gable was making money, being the big thing in Hollywood, he was called a god. Okay, mm-hmm. These are icons, and that means they're cons to the eye, but they're human. And when they get caught, when their past comes back to haunt them, when that karma comes around, that's when we have to realize that a lot of it is not someone just coming after you to get you for some political reason or some racial reason. That may well be that belief in that conspiratorial suspicion may very well be. But the thing is, we have to realize that these are people like anyone else, and they have flaws. Cosby, there's some things he admitted to, but the thing I told you, my perspective on Cosby was as a man who's trying to be a good father and trying to be a good husband. I don't think he was a good example for someone who's trying to be a good father and especially a good husband. You know, but the thing is, in Hollywood, the one way they control who our stars are, they want people who are non-threatening attention getters who will help the system put in place people who can bring booties into the movie theater to see things that will take us nowhere. Okay? And Mike Epps, if he's fighting with Kevin Hart or Cat Williams is fighting with them, that's all divide and conquer. That's division, rather than our coming to the table and discussing how we can work together. You got everybody getting on this radio station or talking to this newspaper person and condemning their peers. Because one thing is, when Epps was making his money, I'm quite sure maybe he was taking some heat. Someone was attacking him. Cat Williams was making his movies. Okay? Chris Rock. You look, most of our top movie makers, they're sports people, mm-hmm. They're entertainers, they're comedians. And that's what the system wants to put out there on the screen, to show us as a bunch of clowns.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things, I think I encourage everybody to listen to the interview. One of the things Mike Epps says is that his success helped open the door for Kevin Hart and the people that he's putting on, but that there are such a thing as black gatekeepers. And when you have that position in line, your words are more powerful, and anything you can say can box the other person out. Now, he feels that his fame was more organic than some others, and that he's had to work for all of his breaks. But he also came to a point where he said, well, maybe I don't need to work as hard because I can only wear one pair of shoes at a time. You know, you've heard that kind of thing. And
who's this?
Mike Epps, he said, you know, like all my money's going to go into buying cars and shoes and stuff. I don't need all of that, you know. And it's sort of like, so the question I ask you is, Kevin Hart, we've certainly, he can be accused of oversaturation. You know, it seems like he is willing to feed that monster that we've all become, where we have an insatiable appetite, not only for entertainment, but for information. And he's used those social media platforms to elevate himself and turn into a brand. And certainly he's been overexposed many a time. Do you think that and then, you know, one of the things that Mike Epps says is we all come from nothing, you know. And I remember when you didn't have anything and now you got stuff, and now you feel like you're the police, you can snitch on other people, talk about their bad habits, you know. And that was his defense. Do you think that that kind of overwhelming drive and hard work ethic that Kevin Hart demonstrates is legit, or is it like a deep-seated insecurity that keeps him on this, or is it just like he doesn't want to pass up an opportunity? Not to say psychologically break down Kevin Hart, but do you think insecurity and fear drives even the most successful people?
Well, what a lot of people have to realize about stars, entertainers, is that they are insecure, and they're also egotists. And the people who become stars on a Kevin Hart's level, they're hard workers, very hard workers, and you have to pay tribute to that. The scary thing is that historically, they see that this doesn't last. Okay, mm-hmm. You look at it's Kevin Hart today, Eddie Murphy. He was the biggest thing out there, mm-hmm. But he was not very prudent with a lot of the things he did. He turned down a lot of stuff that would have diversified him. And Eddie Murphy is a comedic genius.
Without question. Without question.
Okay. And a lot of your comedians, they're great actors. Okay. Richard Pryor, he was a persona on stage. You thought he was Mudbone. You thought he was all of these people. Okay. There's a lot of talent there, but for them to lock into one stereotypical role after another, one stick where it gets annoyingly boring. Mm-hmm. And what you would hope is that they would demand better material, and they would take the largesse, the wherewithal that they're making, and learn how to pull their resources together to bring more people into this industry, to give other ideas a fertile ground to work in. But we don't know how to work together. We don't know how to pull out resources. Other groups have done it. Black folk just seem to have a problem doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that could be an essay for somebody out there that wants to write. I mean, I'm reading this. It's a great book, Cecil Brown, about Richard Pryor. He and Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor, their objective, because they had so many years of struggle before they broke through, and they were on the shoulders of the people that couldn't even get in the door, was to knock down the doors of Hollywood. And they used Richard Pryor as a battering ram. And I feel that Eddie Murphy, what he brought to the game, you know, was that he took the profane charisma of a Richard Pryor and sort of the middle class value lifestyle of Bill Cosby and merged them into a young, street smart character. He still wore a suit, but he was young. He'd go on the Tonight Show. He would wear a suit. He projected that sort of black '80s ideal of success, and then the revolution that Chris Rock brought was taking that young ideal. Eddie Murphy literally picked him um, to be and mentored him and gave him his first breaks. He was a young guy who not only was street smart, but he had an insightful sense of his intellectual ability was on another level. He was almost like a sociologist when it came to breaking down the ills that he saw on a day to day. And he might have been the first breakthrough black comic that didn't conform to the suit. Like he was of the hip hop generation, the Run DMCs, the LL Cool J's, and then Martin follows him. But then when you get to Kevin Hart and you listen to him talk, he's more of a business-minded individual, and um, I think listening to the Tiffany Haddish interview on Breakfast Club, I feel like his objective is to break down those business barriers. Like I think ultimately he sees himself as a player coach. Now the only problem when you are, and maybe he is more apt to pass the ball than some of the other comedians that have been in the game where they had a business, an entity, and that business died with their career, because Eddie Murphy certainly had his Eddie Murphy Productions and so on and so forth, but very, very seldom do they make work that's outside of their own branding and realm. They don't really produce too many outside things. But Kevin Hart, I think he sees a landscape and a platform to extend his brand and make as much money as possible. But I think that might be his only objective, because he's the first one to say he's not trying to compare himself or to be funnier or more talented than the predecessors. It's that he just wants to be, for his generation, the people that everybody gravitate to and identify with. And that's sort of a boxer mentality or a basketball NBA mentality. It's like, look, I'm not going to be as good as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm not going to play as many seasons as Wilt Chamberlain, but for my generation, I want to be the LeBron of this. And I think that's his attitude. Well, you're saying, James is saying that Kevin Hart is limited, and that brings us up to let's make that some final topic of discussion. He's got a new movie coming out called The Upside. The trailer just dropped this week, and our good friend Tatiana Bacchus is featured in it. The movie was shot here in Philadelphia. I think Kevin Hart, he's brought, of all his films, I think he's brought 4 or 5 of his productions to Philadelphia. Mainly, like, he shot his concert film at the Link, and then prior to that, he brought a crew in to shoot like the opening of his Let Me Explain special. This is the first time he's brought a whole production, insisted that it be shot entirely in Philadelphia. So we're proud of that. But I personally am not excited about this, because it is a remake of the French film The Untouchables, which bothered me at the time it came out as a magical Negro film, and I just dreaded the thought of an American remake, regardless of who would be in it, if it's Kevin Hart or not. But as you were saying, this is his first truly dramatic leading role.
Yeah, leading role. I've seen him in something where he was playing a serious part, and I thought he did very well. I'm hoping.
Russ Parr's The Last Stand, he did one.
Yeah, I'm hoping that in Upside we see a different side of Kevin Hart. And shout out to Tatiana, who's in it. See, this is what I have to give kudos to Kevin Hart. It's what I'm talking about. If you have a production company and you bring that production company back home and help some people at home, that means something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and for Tatiana, it's her first studio role to be in a movie that's being distributed in theaters. That's their first time.
Yeah, and and that means something. It helped her with her projects that she wants to do. It's an income. It helps her continue the things she wants to do, and that's, we've been talking about this ad infinitum. When are we going to learn how to come together and create our own Black Hollywood? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You look at, as I said before, most of our big stars, they're entertainers. We had the Wayans. We got Tiffany Haddish now, who's very popular. But our very first big star was doing comedic roles. That's Stephen Fetchit. Mm-hmm. And I said, they always want to give us comedians, but we have to take control. You're not going to get anything that you want to do that's authentic or relates to who we are if someone else is in control of the image. You get not representation, you get more of representation. You get more of what they want us to look like, what they want us to be. And it's they control everything. We have to learn how to take control and be in charge of our own destiny. That's what true liberation is. That's what true power is.
Right. And I do see a convergence in a sense. The people primarily that Kevin Hart does business with are Black. I mean, even the Tiffany Haddish, she said all of her breaks have come from Black people, which is the inverse of my success. Most of the time my opportunities have come because they needed a Black face. So I think maybe things have changed in that respect. But again, immediately it's great because I mean, even when they were filming, I had the opportunity to take some young filmmakers to the set, and it was the very first time they'd been on a professional film set, and they got to meet Kevin and Bryan Cranston, the director, and we spent a half a day there, and it was a life-changing moment for a lot of them just to even feel. I say, like, when you have a chance to touch people or I think a lot of the damage that we've experienced as a culture, Black Americans, is because so many of our tangible role models moved out away from our communities, and we only were left with what we saw on TV, and that TV has a lot of power. So I do see, and then, transformatively for me, I have a love-hate with Kevin Hart, but when I went to the mural dedication, they put a mural of him on the side of Max's Steaks. And I went up to film literally a few blocks from where I live. I went up there, and you can see the video. There's hundreds, thousands of people came out for this dedication, and they all loved this guy. You could just feel the energy. Everybody was so happy. What he represented and the fact that he came back was so powerful. And then also just a simple thing that this guy makes people laugh. You can't, even like the movie Sullivan's Travels, there's nothing more powerful than that release. But I agree with you. At this stage in his career, there's no need for him to be everywhere unless he's really projecting excellence. And I'm just very frustrated at this point with the choices. Again, I'm not looking forward to the magical personally.
Can't hear you. Oh.
I was disappointed with Night School. I just thought it was just the lowest common denominator, bad script movie. So,
but I'll tell you what's disappointing. Can you hear me, Mike?
I can hear you. Yeah. Anybody else hear him?
I tell you what's disappointing. You take a film like Night School. I told you I haven't seen it yet, but I told you from the get-go, I didn't. The trailer didn't impress me, and I just felt it was a rush job. But the thing is, I would recommend two films just off the top. Another person who was a superstar, along with Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Okay, Martin Lawrence I was just talking with my brother the other day. People, I call my brother Barry Berry, who was a great comedian when he was on stage. He helped Chris Rock. He helped a lot of these people. But the thing is, and he told Martin personally, he said, Martin, your role in Life, 1999, with Eddie Murphy. I thought Life was one of the gems that not enough people went to see. And it goes to 2 points I think it's important, is that, yes, we want our artists to be more careful in the material they decide to do, and we hope that it's on a qualitative level and not get into this quantitative thing where they just take anything and everything. But it's important also that we have a good audience, an audience that is supportive. Now, I see someone made a point where we as an audience provide so many millions and millions of dollars to the industry, and that money should be recycled back into our community. And that's another great thing that would happen if we learn how to collectively work together and use our resources to do our own thing. But the thing is, as an audience, we need to support films like The Great Debaters. I think The Great Debaters should have done 3 times the amount of money that Night Shift has made. Night Shift is up to close to 60 million now. Great Debaters, which Oprah helped produce, that only made $30 million. And that is a great film. The relationships, the image of James Farmer as portrayed by Forrest Whitaker, Melvin Tolson, these are real people. Denzel, he shows that he's not just a great actor, he is a well equipped, efficient director as well. He's put some good stuff out there, and The Great Debaters should have made a lot more money, and that's something people need to watch, and a lot of our kids need to see. And this is based on a true story where it shows the same way we were excited over the Hidden Figures, that show another side of the side they want to hide of us, where we just continuously only get films that project us as comedians and athletes. Great Debaters is a film that should be seen to show you how we had students who defeated the so-called intelligentsia over in Harvard in debate. And debate deals with logic and research. You get into logic, your premise, your affirmative, your negative, and your syllogism. This is stuff we need to support. And so with Kevin Hart, in closing, I would say, and the others, Tyler Perry, he's another comedian. Basically, he's made his money in comedic roles. Medea is a comic figure.
Yes.
But the thing is, if we get together and put out more films like Great Debaters and Hidden Figures, this would help us. And then if our blacks decide to do these things, we need to support it. We need to support it.
Well, without question. I guess from my perspective, what I can say on that is, two things. Hollywood's always shortchanged black films, and some of it is because of who's in charge of greenlighting them, and then the second is the reality of the business. Until blaxploitation, there wasn't really a proven market for black-oriented films, and then of course, black films ended up saving all of Hollywood. And I think it's undercover. The frustrating thing now is that you have, when good films come out, they're usually still low budgeted I'm watching right now. Charles, Raising the Sun just came out on Criterion, and one of the things the director says is that it was a low risk thing for Columbia Pictures to do it. They really didn't want to take any chances other than film the play, and they had $1 million budget, and the movie, and that was risky, and the movie made exactly $1 million back. Now, it could be fabricated. As many people wanted to see the play, there's a lot of factors that go into what box office is, in terms of like what is successful, what isn't, even what we're made aware of. Like we just had Emma Sante on for Where Hands Touch. By the time the interview posted, the movie's already gone. So there's a lot of factors in terms of box office. But what I can say is that maybe a movie like Great Debaters or even Birth of a Nation didn't make huge money in theaters, but it has a long tail. That movie exists forever, and as long as the copyright laws are upheld, they're recycling money off of that stuff. And I think certain independent filmmakers, you have to have not disposable income, but a business plan where you say, well, look, I might not make the money back off this movie immediately, but the fact that I own it means that I can sell it over and over again. And, Robert Muggy is one of those filmmakers. Every film that he's made, he's negotiated that he controls the copyright. He's been able to sell his work over and over again. And most recently, Charles Murray, he did a movie, Things Never Said. He made some extra money one year, and rather than put it into his retirement fund, he decided that he would pursue his dream and make a feature film that he'd written the script for 10 years before. And
Mike,
yeah,
I'm sorry, but before I lose my thought, because you mentioned Birth of a Nation.
Yes, sir.
Nate Parker's, right?
Yeah, we have JD and MC talking about it. Yeah,
I thought he did a great job for his maiden effort, but I was just thinking about that the other day. I said, he touched upon the importance of language in his film. Mm-hmm. Because he was saying it's a new day, and he took the Bible and said, "This is what they want us to see, and here's what we need to see." Right. Okay, that was important. But the thing is, what I was thinking about the other day is, how come all this controversy suddenly came up about Nate Parker's past when he released Birth of a Nation? But, interestingly enough, one of the most powerful images in The Great Debaters was Nate Parker's role. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
He's a very conscious individual and yes, very much his own person. He's managed to wedge some things in that I think, we're talking about what films are being made now that we're going to be looking at 20 years from now. I hope that there's a rediscovery of Birth of a Nation, because I think that there's a lot going on in that movie. But yes, clearly it was done for the right reasons. But I don't know. Just to address Dina, they're having a debate over here. I'll let you answer. Is America less racist than it was 50 years ago, 1969? The feeling is that 2018 feels a lot like 1968. So in your opinion, having lived in both eras, do you feel it's the same, better, changed? Solve this for us. Racism.
A very prescient statement was made by W.E.B. Du Bois. Mm-hmm. The problem of the 20th century will be the problem of the color line. Okay? What we have today is we have a 24/7 media. And so what happens as a consequence of that is that what went pretty much on the DL is fully out there. Mm-hmm. America has been racist from the time after Blumenbach came up with his breaking down of the races with the skulls, and there was this decision that the most beautiful race of people, the most ideal skull belonged to the Germanic people. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This system is controlled by people who see themselves as ideal. And that's going to perpetuate until there is a new rhetoric, a new narrative. The thing I told you, what people don't realize, what we're getting in film is the anti-Negro message that continues and continues. And a lot of people don't see it because they're under the illusion of inclusion. All of these films coming out with these black and white relationships, I have nothing against them. I'm not saying that. I'm just being analytical. All of these films are part of the message-making machine to say, we prefer there to continuously be division between black men and black women, and they constantly want to show the black woman as ugly. As I told you before, I'm looking at the media. Where are all the
be clear on that, because there is the binary there of the interracial relationships and the casting of light-skinned or biracial women in the majority of the American films have come in the last few years.
There's a reason for that. Okay, if I show you in film after film the light-skinned woman, okay, in a particular role, a leading romantic role, just by the imagery, the depiction, I'm imparting another message that this is a desirable look. As I told you before, Lupita Nyong'o was described as one beautiful woman when she did 12 Years a Slave. She got her Academy Award. What has she done in film as a romantic lead? Only time she plays romantic leads is when they ghettoize the particular film. Queen of Katwe. What's the setting? Queen of Katwe.
Well, it's set in Africa. It's first studio picture with a black African cast.
And Black Panther. Black Panther. Where's that? What's the setting of Black Panther?
Wakanda.
Africa.
No, it's Wakanda, Charles.
Yeah, well, the thing is this. Okay, I don't want my light-skinned sisters to be up in arms. I'm saying we are a diverse people. And that's because there's been a whole lot of integration in the bed, sexual integration, and we have all these different colors. But the movies that they put out, they're putting them out for with these black and white relationships because they're titillating. They promote this message of the illusion of inclusion, and they also help further the division between dark people and light people. Remember when I told you how much I liked Beyond the Lights? How many people said, well, that wasn't no real black woman? For someone, and there were a lot of people who felt that way. For people to feel that way, it's because that goes back to Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch is all about the color division, the light against the dark, and it's also about black men versus black women. Just one point I want to make. Tell the family to look up Eric LaSalle from ER years ago. He made a controversial stance. He said, I'm not against black and white relationships. I have a problem where we want to show black and white relationships working where black romantic relationships, black men and black women, are either highly sexual or dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm against. And that's the message that's being promoted.
Yeah.
So all these films that coming out now, you have the homosexual and you have the interracial relationship. Yeah. This is all part of trying to reach the new demographics.
Yeah, and you know, we're talking about Hate to Give. I know you haven't seen it yet. I've seen a lot of films, so it's not the best film, but what I like about it is that it's the first black film this year that I feel addresses some issues in a complicated way.
Don't forget, early on there was controversy about the star.
Casting of her, Amanda Stenberg,
Yeah, because it had nothing to do with the image in the book.
Yeah, and I need to read the book, and maybe I should do that in the next couple of weeks before everybody else has a chance to see it. It's open in, I think, 12 cities this past Friday. It's going to open wide on the 19th. But you know, it definitely reinforces your status quo. You know, not to spoil anything, because her sort of unrequited love is the black man, and he's killed. And then she has a prep school boyfriend who's Caucasian that's trying to support her and be with her. How we see the ending is you see a full character arc, which is what I like about the movie. But in terms of what you're talking about, the rhetoric, it certainly is not a film that provides the happy ending, let's say, for black people. We still, as much as we have the representation, we don't get too many opportunities to imagine the future outside the movie. You know, like to me, the better movies leave a little bit to your imagination at the end. It's not tied up in a bow, and it's not so fucked up that you're just like, what the fuck was that? You know, but it leaves you with a sense of hope and optimism that says, wow, that was dope. You know, so I can imagine more. And we still
one question I have for the real black family. I'm looking. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at these TV shows. I'm looking, and I want them to help me with this. Where are the dark actresses on TV? Greenleaf. There is a certain shade, but anything real dark.
Well, you get a mixture in Queen Sugar, but it's a diverse range.
Hey, let me tell you, all you have to do is go look at Boomerang. Okay, and I'm going to do a thing. One of the many lessons I told you I'm going to do on colorism. Tell the people, look at Boomerang. Boomerang. They had Robin Givens. She was so powdered up. She was lighter than Halle Berry.
Yeah. Well, good news. They're bringing Boomerang back as a series. Halle Berry.
And every one of the girls he was involved with, they were on this higher shade, not darker shade, but higher shade. Because one of the girls who was complaining all the time was the girl who plays Martin's girlfriend.
Tisha Campbell.
Campbell, right? You had Halle Berry. You had Leela Rochon. Okay, so there's something to the words of Viola Davis. It's still the paper bag test.
Well, that's the big struggle that I'm having, and I appreciate having these conversations and reading people's comments, because I mean, I go to movies and it's sort of representation or justice. It's like mainstream movies that you're asked to pay for in the theater. They're targeted to a wider audience, and a lot of times, I don't know if it's the marketing or the casting or who they think is going to sell stuff, but they're looking at a global audience, and they're also looking at crossover. So even a Will Packer movie seems like they're playing to an imaginary white audience that's going to come in droves to watch Kevin Hart. The only time it worked was Straight Outta Compton. And that was as black as you could get within the system. You know, it showed a lot of rebellion, and, you know, it was authentically so. And white people crossed over to it. But by, you know, Wedding Ringer, that wasn't, I don't think too many white folks saw that. I think more white people watch Tyler Perry movies than they do the movies where they try to hybridize Kevin Hart with the Will Packer stuff. But I'm really, that's my main struggle. If it's, is it going to be on YouTube? You know, has the real authentic Black audience, we all have a need to see ourselves represented. I don't think Hollywood is doing anybody a service by creating this "We Are the World" coalition and casting. Like, I don't know that many people this way or that way where I can say I got a white friend, I got a Black friend, I got a gay friend, I got just like, it doesn't represent, it represents the audience, but does it represent the world? Maybe Star is Born pulls it off fairly well because it starts off and it's a music culture, it's a whole fantasy to begin with. Lady Gaga, the suspend your disbelief, folks, if you haven't seen Stars Born. She's discovered, first scene, she's singing at a gay club where all the performers are transvestites, and he happens to stumble in and starts drinking and sees her and instantly falls in love. But not once does he ask her, "Wait, where are you gay too?" She kind of volunteers that of all the performers that are transvestite, because they love her voice so much, they let her perform. So she's like the outsider, but she's in a drag club. It's kind of a weird movie, but that's the only movie I've seen recently where I can kind of buy into it because it's already in a broad stroke, and then they narrow it in, and then they include the Dave Chappelle role and different things like that. But I mean, for the most part, I'm not saying, I think the audience is so fragmented that if it's Friends, we don't watch it. So Woody Allen movies, I stopped watching a long time ago. And when I go, and because I expect them at this point to be all white. So when I see a movie where you have Black people on the poster, and they know that if you put Idris Elba and Taraji Henson on the poster, that they're targeting my dollars. And then I go, and there's this whole subplot with these white folks. It's like, well, who's paying for this? And is this why? When are mainstream movies going to have the audience cross over to them the way we did with hip hop? When are we going to see such an authentically strong representation of Blackness that it can't be denied and everybody wants to go, as opposed to let's find a part for actor X, Y, and Z so that we can cross it over. We don't make it too Black. That's the thing that drives me a little crazy. I'm trying to figure it out. How do you get away with that one? But anyway,
one thing.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, you see, I let you talk.
Of course.
Because Cheryl Harper says stop interrupting the host.
Oh, you're reading the comments? Well, Cheryl, she came in from the beginning. She hung for a whole 90 minutes.
And Cheryl, I apologize profusely for that, but once Mike gets started, it's hard to stop.
This is how we talk.
And then the other thing is, Alliance of Reason pointed out Grace Jones. And yes, if you look at Grace Jones, who's dark, in Boomerang, notice the hypersexuality that they showed of her. Yeah. Okay? Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. That's what happened. And just the final point on the light and the dark, what they do is, with the light-skinned women, they make them romantic and they make them a little more sexually passive. And with the dark women, they make them hoochie girls and oversexed. Mm-hmm. You can go to New Jack City and see some of that in that film. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, it's definitely a trope. I think we're fairly familiar. It's just how do we? And I think everybody knows this who's casting, and I don't know where the resistance has to come from. Is it because it's clearly poisoned folks' minds? I used to say, like, they're like Beyonce, not the best actress, great talented performer, but when she first started making movies, like when I'm Foxy Cleopatra or whatever, I said, oh my God, there were about 20 other people who could have done this better. But they're gonna keep giving this woman opportunities until she gets really good at it and she becomes their Oscar, the Black Barbara Streisand, where she's directing and she's gonna control things. But we're watching her mistakes on a large screen, and a lot of that comes because of her appearance. The you can't tell me that there aren't 15 or 20 other actors, if you're just talking about acting talent, or even name in the singing world, that could have played the part better. But for whatever reason, certain people continue to get the opportunities until they get really good at things. So that's my observation on that. Um, but I cringed at Austin Powers. I don't know if anybody else liked Foxy Cleopatra. Fighting Temptations Obsession. No, I disagree, Jay Jones. Beyonce has never been good in anything. She's a horrible actress. I like her music. I like her videos. Fighting Temptations. I mean, problem maybe because I'm from Philly and the voice gets me. Like, it just seems, her Southern accent, it just doesn't seem intentional enough to be sexy for me. And maybe I'm in the minority, but it's just like I need to, like, a mental translator. Like, when she speaks, I have to reimagine it as somebody who actually speaks clearly, to me.
I like that film, Fighting Temptation.
Fighting Temptation with Cuba Gooding?
Yeah.
Nah, I didn't like it that much. I mean, it was a nice try. I mean, Cuba, that's another episode, and he directed a film. I need to catch up on that. And
ask the real black family, do they know who one of the producers of Fighting Temptations was?
Oh, this is your trivia. Well, you should tell them, because nobody.
If they remember Cornbread Earl and Me,
which we showed the poster for last week.
Earl
is one of the producers of Fighting Temptations.
Yeah, who was Cuba Gooding's stuntman also.
Yeah. So, well, maybe that's worth
Tia Turner.
Worth re-examining. Okay, so we're over. I'm sorry. Now I'll never work with Beyonce. Told the truth. You got me telling the truth, Charles. She just, she has the vocal down. She just needs speech lessons, enunciate, if you're gonna be on TV. And she had 20 years of being on interviews to get that voice. But some people, I guess, think it's sexy. They've been hearing it so long that Beyonce, I just can't understand the child. And it's no disrespect to anything. I'm just not from Houston. Maybe in Houston, people get it. I'm prejudiced. I'll admit to it. Can we shift away? Well, I mean, we have shifted away to other models. It's just they're not representative of commodification. You're still in a capitalistic society. You can make a film, but how do you sell it? And then even though films cost less money than they ever have, you still need to reach an audience so that they continue to support you again and again and again. And that's one of the reasons why we want to do these kind of streaming things, because when we make our big move, Charles, we want to have all 65 people watching now, make sure that they pay money to support. But I mean, it's just like, I think overall the problem is how there's no floor, there's no ceiling in the entertainment business. Now, you don't want to be sleeping on the floor your whole career, but at the same time, whenever you start to, maybe it takes you. I was watching an interview with Birdman and Slim, and they said it took them 7 years to break Cash Money Records. So we lost $300,000 the first year. By year 7, they had, I think, 7 different artists on the charts in the top 10, and they were making millions. Now, once you start getting the taste of those millions, it's kind of hard to imagine the floor again. So that's when you start, as you say, selling your soul or whatever, doing things that are outside of your integrity, or maybe you start to think that the water is colder elsewhere and you don't, sow seeds in both. I mean, one of the things George Washington Carver taught us is crop rotation, right? So, I mean, and black celebrity has not mastered that yet, or been given the opportunity. When you look at the people that really have the longest runs in the entertainment business, if you talk about directors, it's Clint Eastwood and Woody Allen, and they don't make the same movie over and over. they'll make a movie that will draw mass appeal, but then they'll also do smaller things just for the sake of the art. And I think Denzel, he has mastered that to a certain extent, where he's big enough box office that he can do an Equalizer or an Unstoppable, and then for less money he'll go and do Offenses. But the crop rotation model is real important. If you look at a Clint Eastwood, for every Dirty Harry, there's a Heartbreak Ridge, or something, a Gran Torino, or something that's going to be a little bit smaller in scale. That's not, maybe not going to make as much money, but it's going to reinforce his body of work. And I don't necessarily know if Black entertainers have gotten to that point yet, but ownership is also essential. But you can own it, but if people are blocking you, and that tends to be what the situation is. Charles, comment on this. I mean, ownership only works if you have an audience that's going to pay money to support you. And too often, because it's built into our DNA, we have a survival instinct that's hardwired into Black American DNA, which is the minute it becomes cool or successful, we jet away from it. We don't stay with the success. We create things. We create jazz. We create R&B. I went to 2 or 3 James Brown concerts towards the end of his life. If James Brown, Godfather's soul, was dependent on Black people to support his career, he would have died broke. It was 90% white people at all of his shows the last 5 years of his career. And it wasn't because of ticket prices. One show I went to see him was free. So, if you can own something, but if people don't want to pay to support it, then it's not going to survive. I mean, am I wrong on that, Charles? Or?
Well, I mean,
B.B. King, you saw the Diana Ross footage.
To make my point as quickly as possible, so I don't have Miss Harper jump on me. But the thing is, I like Denzel Washington's formula. He'll make a mainstream film, and then he has his vanity films, which I think, like Antoine Fisher, Fences, the aforementioned Great Debaters. These are quality films. These are films that he attempts to bring authenticity to. But the thing is, as I said before, none of this can continue if we don't have the audience support. That's important. Ownership, they want us to put things out there, but the audience, for the most part, it's been weaned, and it's been the taste. People aren't aware of it, but their taste for a product is manufactured. It's groomed. It's programmed. So a particular type of film will be more successful than some other kind of film because the taste has been groomed by the marketers. They go to school. They learn how to program different things. They have people they call attention getters. They can study audiences to death. They know what to put out there. You look at a lot of Spike Lee films. The problem I had with the Black Klansman, it was too much comedy. But what they do is they throw the comedy in. Yes, it's a legitimate way of breaking the tension down. But in many of Spike Lee films, Spike Lee has been a little imp. He's been a coon figure. And that's because for the longest, even from the 30s, Ted Toddy, who was a producer, he said basically Black audiences, they like movies with a lot of music and a lot of comedy. And that hasn't changed, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I pray my vision when I say real Black and I have that logo was when we called ourselves Black, we were at our strongest, our most unified. And, when I talk to people about Black aesthetic, it's not just about like a unified vision of the art, but, is it possible for film to reach the same level of quality that Black music did in the 70s, and one of one of the big guys we just mentioned, James Brown. He had a song Escapism, you know, and I think, you know, when times are tough, it's good because artists get more creative, but also audiences tend to want more of an escapist thing. And in the past, when movies, you literally had to go to the movies to have that excitement through the surround sound and everything. Now you can get it at home, and a lot of people are just watching stuff on the phone. It's more commonplace. The spectacle isn't there unless it's a Marvel film. And now with the music, the escapism is drugs, or maybe even being in your own bubble of a belief system where you're not necessarily open to what other people have to say. But that being said, we are real Black, and I'm still fighting, trying to figure out, you know, how we can get authentically representations that are authentic to our experience and not compromised in a way that, for an imaginary audience. So it's great that we have an opportunity to share our thoughts. I mean, Charles and I, we talk like this all the time, but now because of the technology, we can share our thoughts and ideas with you. And I'll go through here. I really appreciate everybody sticking through. We got it up to 63. We're an hour and 50. This is the longest one so far. And again, Dick Gregory's birthday is this Friday. So Thursday night, I'll be back on for at least an hour. I want to share some stories about Dick Gregory and possibly have a few of his friends, acquaintances call in and share theirs as well, and open it up to for you guys to ask questions or whatever. I'm an open book, but I will never tell you what he told me when he said to cut the camera. So you're not going to get that answer when we talk about Tupac. He said cut the camera. That dies with me. Yeah. So any final thoughts? Are we peace and blessings? This may or may not become. Charles, do we need this on the channel, or should we just let this go?
Need what?
It came in the mail. See, this is what.
You remember they used to say that's Michael Jackson? If you look at her name, LaToya, she's a toy.
Well, they said you never saw them both in the same place after he got famous.
Like Superman and Clark Kent, right?
Well, there's a video of her asking questions, but after he got famous and they both had the surgery, you never saw them again together. But that may or may not. I don't mind them taking the money for music rights, and I encourage people to watch the channel. I think it's fun to go back in time and look at how we were back in the day. But crackhead LaToya, that's so wrong. There's no proof. Was she really smoking crack? I've never even heard that one, Dina. I know she's eccentric and she let people beat her up, but she read a book, and I don't believe it. Anything she put in her tell-all, that's all fabricated. I don't think she even read it herself. Go ahead.
But you talked about the birthday of Baba Dick coming up,
October 12th.
and one of the funniest things is he said only in America can a poor little Black boy grow up and die a rich white man. Michael Jackson.
Rich white woman, yeah.
A white woman, okay.
Rich white woman. Yeah, we love you. All right, so everybody. All right, so maybe we got to put that LaToya video. I don't. I think our choices were limited with LaToya Jackson. She was not the finest of. I'll put Rebe over LaToya, and I would put Janet first.
See, Cheryl said Michael and LaToya were together at a concert event.
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking.
Okay.
Doppelgangers here. But that Diana Ross, she definitely. I don't know. Michael Jackson and Diana Ross clearly had the exact same plastic surgeon because they look. I mean, I'm convinced he modeled himself to look like her. He had some infatuation with her. If you read the Tara Borelli book, but yeah. Well, if you want, after you log off, watch. There's a LaToya interviews Michael Jackson video, which is great because he talks about the nature of creativity and all that kind of stuff. And I miss Michael Jackson. Love him too. All right, so we're almost at 2 hours. Charles, thank you so much. I didn't think we were gonna hang this long. I appreciate everybody for checking in. And
man, I got my chicken and watermelon on the table.
Oh, really? You're not supposed to eat that shit. We want you healthy and back.
Yeah. Listen, Mike,
Yes, sir.
you got more time than I expected to get, but a shout out once again, peace and blessings to the Real Black family, and thank you for putting up with two chatty dudes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Thanks, family. And Wednesday night. No, I'm sorry. Thursday night. We're already into Wednesday. Thursday night, 10:30 roundabouts. I'll be back on, and I'll be sharing Dick Gregory stories. So, all right. Thanks. Thank you, Charles. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.